Welcome to Established Academy. I don't care about anything being fancy here because the truth is, life isn't fancy. So, we're going to start doing these long form videos, old school vlog style, at least until I get help to make things a little bit fancier. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't have time and don't care to make these videos fancy. My name is Eric Thomas. I am the founder and creator of Established Academy. It is a training program to help adults that have gone through absolute chaos as children and young adulthood become a little bit less chaotic, a little bit less impulsive and reactionary. I have a dream, and that dream is to help change this world for children not yet born. Malachi 4:6, the very last verse of the Bible, says to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the hearts of the children to their fathers. And that is what needs to happen. Because it also says, lest there be a curse be upon this earth, or something along those lines. I'm not a scriptorian. I have them right there. Maybe I should have gotten them out. But again, I don't care about being perfect. I don't care about being polished. But I do care about helping people who never got the chance to become stabilized mentally and emotionally. People who never got the chance to learn how to communicate without aggression. I do care about changing the world at the individual level so that when new children are born into this world, they're not born into a world that is damaging and destructive. I'm not talking about the global aspect of the world. No, I'm talking about the world that we live in individually, which is in our homes, amongst friends and family, in our communities, in our work environments. That is the world for most people. It's not this grandiose blanket the earth statement that I'm talking about. And if I can help just raise mental acuity and mental and emotional intelligence in individuals that care to listen just by 10%, then we will have a different world in a couple of generations' time. I have a hypothesis. And this is, if I can become just 10% better in some area of my life that I'm lacking in, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, in my relationships, in my communication styles, or wherever, then if I take that 10% and truly apply it and continue to become better in those areas, and I mean really just 10% better, but I'm intentional with that 10%, and I teach it to my children, and I say, hey, this is where I was really lacking, and this is what I'm really working on, and I want you to be intentional about working on this part as well, while you find your own 10% to be better at. Everybody's unique in this world, right? Everybody has their struggles. They have the things that they're interested in, the things that they struggle with, the things that they don't. And if we can just be 10% better individually and create a compounding effect, then in 2 or 3, maybe 4 generations, we have created a level of consciousness, of awareness, of acuity that will decrease the reactivity and impulse of our human nature. But it's more than just human nature, because for generations now, we have been dismantled systematically through the way that the modern world has developed. Some of it has been intentional. Some of it has just been the consequences and repercussions of creating modern convenience. We've lost the inability to pass down knowledge from one generation to the next, especially underneath a certain economic threshold. But that is a lot of people, right? It is a lot of people. A lot of the inadequate adults in some area that are not willing to reflect and develop themselves into a person that has the ability to teach the generation coming behind them properly. And it is my desire, my burning desire, to make a difference in that. So that's what I teach. At least I try to, right? I, as the student first of Established Academy, started creating programs and systems and frameworks and exercises and tools to help me in the areas where I could see I was lacking, which was, emotional immaturity. It was mental instability. It was inability to communicate properly or effectively. It was not being able to understand how to maintain proper relationships as far as friends and family and intimate relationships go. I was stuck in various loops of PTSD because my life has been really intense, and I've experienced a lot that most people don't, and I hope most people never will. But regardless of what we experience, if we have a foundation that is strong, that is rooted in awareness and confidence, then it doesn't really matter what we go through, because when we have a level of conscientiousness amongst one another, so the support needed in order to process through difficulty becomes a main staple of our sociological dynamics. Now, of course, that's easier said than done, which is why I have created Established Academy. It is a program that allows us to build conscientiousness, awareness, and perspective without it being a fancy pie-in-the-sky therapeutic psychological conversation. There's so much of that out there already that we don't really need any more of it. And there's so many people regurgitating attachment theories and, pattern recognition and at an emotional dynamic level that we don't need it. So what I've created is more of a scientific program. At least it starts that way. So we become researchers over our experience as human beings first, before as individuals. So when we know how we operate as human beings, like they do on National Geographic, or like the way David Attenborough narrates, right? We do it with all of these other animals and insects and species around the entire world, but nobody's really doing it at the human experience level. And I'm not doing it really that way either. But I am doing it from an awareness standpoint, where it's like, okay, there's like 6 major building blocks that make us up. They're mental, emotional, physiological, neurological, spiritual, and biological. And when we can become aware over how those 6 centers interact with each other, then we can really become privy and gain the capability and capacity to lessen the amount of reaction and impulse that we experience in our lives. And so that is my mission, is to help people become conscientious, help people to develop confidence, so that there is greater capability and capacity at the individual level, which also then includes discovering developmental milestones that might be missing in our lives. We're born, and God willing, we're able-bodied, and if you're not, your experience might be different, but my experience is this. I was born, then I learned how to crawl, then I learned how to stand, then I learned how to walk, then I learned how to run, and then somewhere along the way, I learned how to talk smack, right? Not related to walking and running, but you get the point. It is a developmental process. So I've taken the time to develop to study developmental psychology and social interaction dynamics. And I've learned so much about trauma and in what it does to the operating system in the human being, and what it does to the operation system of social communications and relationships. And so I went through and I developed a program that walks all the way through those things in a systematic school like way. We start at the beginning. We start with the basics, and then we work our way through. As scientists and researchers, first, we take the emotion out of it completely in the beginning, and we just intellectualize, which that word gets thrown around a lot in the world of therapy and psychology as a demonized methodology to learning yourself. But it's good to start somewhere, right? So we start with an intellectual point of view where we're like, okay, I get it. These things happen and have happened, and they happen and have happened because just because of the fact that we exist. Yeah, so we learn the mind body connection stuff first, and then we go through and we do like timeline work on experience awareness, which uncovers skills, tools, and talents. Then we start doing a little bit more heavy lifting with finding our developmental milestones that might be missing. And then we start taking action towards putting them where they belong, because that space might still be empty, but it's not unavailable. You can plug your missing developmental milestone into it, whether that's in relationships, in communications, in mental intelligence, mental acuity, or emotional intelligence. And then we can start moving into dealing with the emotional stuff, okay? Where we start leaning into finding grace, where we start leaning into finding acceptance. Because what I found was all of the books and therapy and psychology stuff, they weren't doing the trick. They were giving me good information, but they weren't doing the trick to really help me heal and transform away from all of the absolute utter chaos that I had experienced as a child, and that I 10x multiplied as a young adult, and then moving through my 20s into my 30s. And I like telling this one because it's kind of silly. One of my developmental milestones that was missing was asking somebody to be my friend. I never got the chance to ask anybody to ever be my friend. Matter of fact, I got so good at just assimilating with people that the woman who became my wife, we've since divorced because of the chaos that I could not get control of, that I have since we have a wonderful relationship still as parents. But like we both came from like very traumatic backgrounds, and we just assimilated together and then ended up getting married. I mean, I did ask her to marry me, but it was a very like a subtle thing. But for 38 years, I was missing this developmental milestone of asking somebody to be my friend. Kids do it all the time. I have encouraged each of my kids to go ask other kids to be their friends on the playground or wherever, right? And I discovered this one just recently, just a few weeks ago. So I found a guy at church, and I was like, hey, you want to be my friend? And I did it, kind of tongue in cheek, because we're in our late 30s now. But it was still, I could feel the little kid in me so excited to ask somebody to be my friend, right? It was so awesome, right? So, and it boosted my confidence. It gave me like some mental and emotional relief. And it was just so cool to have that experience that I never got. So that's what I'm talking about, is those types of things. And we go through that process. And then what I love doing the most is help people to go through the process of achieving their dreams and goals, especially if you identify as being ambitious but broken, which that's what I'll name the title of this video: Ambitious but Broken. And I think it's awesome. I think it's so awesome to watch people go through the process. It has been awesome watching myself go through the process. For the last 5 years, I have been building this academy. This video right here is going to get repeated a million times over, which, by the way, was one of the character traits that I had to figure out how to get over, was repetition. One of my psychological patterns was, I want to say it once and I want it to matter, but I found a little word equation several months ago, which was to shift from significance and certainty into conviction and curation. And since I've been doing that, it has been life-changing. So anyway, so no fancy videos. As far as these long form videos go, I'm going to just start cranking these long form videos out because I need to get better at doing it. So like, follow, subscribe, comment, please. If you resonate with anything that I've said, you can find the academy on skool.com. There's probably a link somewhere. Find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook. We're going to do some incredible things by building out an amazing place that is community oriented first, before education first. So education second, community building first, because we all need a place to belong. So with that being said, thanks for tuning in. You guys are awesome. And do me a favor, would you? Find somebody to be kind to today.